Hi class, this is JilMac, and I'm back to talk about the research questions in Chapter 8, Chapter 8, Assignment 8, Chapter 13. So we had previously looked at just all the different examples, and I had put this new link on my website so that each chapter that I'm looking at, I have a link to it so I can go out there and look at the code or see how the program runs. Makes it a little bit easier. And also I gave you a link to this nice CSS web safe fonts, because fonts can sometimes get tricky when you're creating stuff on a Windows machine and a Mac is going to be looking at it, or you're creating it under a Mac machine and Windows are going to be looking at it. But first, I'm going to talk about the research. And the research question is, do the W3schools.com CSS font tutorial, which is out here. So I want you to do that tutorial. And you can also get there by going out to W3schools and then clicking on the CSS and the CSS font. So let's go out there first and look at that. So I'm going to right click and open in a new tab. So as we go out to W3schools, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so we can kind of see the layout of it. So I'll bring it up to 100%. So here on W3schools, we have been looking at this previously. We looked at the HTML. Today we're looking at the CSS because that's what our chapters are about. And so you have this navigation, kind of the top left navigation, where you can also go and look at the document object models for JavaScript and SQL and PHP and Bootstrap. But over on the right, you have the option of going into tutorials, which is where we are now, or going into references, and I'll be talking about that in a minute. Right now we're in tutorials, and I know that because right up here it says CSS tutorial. And then it says here's the tutorial for the home and the introduction to CSS and the syntax of CSS and how to do different things and CSS colors and backgrounds and borders. All kinds of things before we get to fonts. So we can scroll down, and what it's showing us here in this graphic is it's showing us the difference between sans serif and serif. Now, Google used to be a serif because it was maybe easier to read. I'm not quite sure why. And now if you open a Google window, you don't see a sans serif Google. You see a sans serif. You don't see a serif. You see a sans serif. Because this one is smaller. It's actually smaller. It has less. All these little red marks, those are gone. And it means that it downloads faster and more efficiently. So that's why Google wanted to save every millisecond. And so it's trying to make its interface as efficient as possible. But if we look at this font, so it kind of gives us this little reference of what's the difference between sans serif and serif. And then it talks about CSS font families. We have, the Times New Roman and the Georgia and the Arial and the Veranda and the Courier New and the Lucinda, that if you want everything lined up nicely. So here's types of fonts. And as we scroll down through, we have, once again, our try it yourself. So if I wanted to click on this, here's all the code to bring this up, this font family. So how do we do that? Here we have the style sheet. Right in here, all this blue is the style sheet. And first we tell it that we're going to have a font family, and that font family is going to be Times New Roman. And then Times, and then serif. So if they don't have Times, they can go to Times New Roman. If they don't have that file, then they can go to Times. If they don't have that file, they can default to serif. Now when we're doing a paragraph, we're going to have this, and then we're going to end the style. So that little P is for paragraph. So if we have a P down in our code, we have an H1, and our H1 just looks at a big H1. And then we have our sans serifs, and this one is just serif, and the second one is sans serif. So this sans serif looks bigger than just the serif. And every time we go to P, it goes into the P serif. So it's looking at this paragraph named serif. And here we have the class of serif inside of a P, which is a paragraph. So each of these. And that's how it's telling it to go to different fonts. So now I'm going to go back to my fonts. And we have font styles, normal, italic, and opaque. And if we want to put some CSS with it, this is going to give us a P normal. It's going to give us the normal. P italic is going to give us the italic. And P oblique is going to give me the oblique. And you can always go out and try it yourself. What's nice about this is that you can be on a phone or a tablet. You know, you don't have to lug out your computer and your textbooks. You can kind of look around and explore. And this is how to set the font size. So when we're in the H1, we can give it a font size of 400. And an H2 is a font size of 30 pixels. And a paragraph is a size of 14 pixels. And if I wanted to try it myself, I could open it up. And here, how I might change it is H1 is 40 pixels. Well, what about if I made it 60 pixels? So I'll put a 6 in there, and I'll click See Result. That's what it looks like. That's what a 60 pixel one looks like. What if I wanted this one to be 50? Make it a little bigger again. And click See Results, and now it's even a little bit bigger. And if I wanted to change the color of it, I could change the color of the font also. So those are some ideas for things you can change. Then you can block copy it, paste it into Notepad or Sublime Text, and save it as an this one is an HTML file because it has both the style, so we don't need to do an in style, and it has the headers, H1, H2, and paragraph. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my fonts. And I want to go back to the assignment, because we were scrolling through CSS syntax. But notice here that there's a CSS3 syntax page. Well, let's go back to fonts under CSS, and if we keep scrolling, we're going to find the CSS3 DOM. And if we wanted to, we could look at the introduction, and from the introduction we could go to our outline. Here's the outlines of CSS. And as we scroll down, it tells us all our options. We can be dotted or dashed or solid or groove. And if we, no, not that one. So here is the code for that. I've given it one of each, not me, but somebody has. I click on the Try It editor. This is what the text is going to look like. This is what it looks like now. If I wanted to change this border from a 1 pixel to a 10 pixel, Oops, backspace it. I can do that. Okay. It's like I made the screen too big. If I come over here and I want this outline color is red, if I wanted it to be turquoise, and click see the result, it all went black. So the okay, the pixels is solid black, the outline color is turquoise, but it didn't do it. So maybe I can do the outline as pink. Put that in, click see results, and now all of our lines are pink. And I can make that even bigger if you guys want to see a picture. That's not working quite right today either. All right, so those are some of the ways that you can look at this. Well, let me just go. Keep overwriting myself. I'm going to go back into assignment 8. And let's make this big. A privacy error. Let's try it again. We're going to go into assignment 8. It kind of locked me a little bit. Oh, here's my scroll bar right over here. So as I'm going through, that's when I went and looked at this tutorial. There are 7 different try-its. I'd like you to try them all out. There's 6 different exercises. You know, you've got quite a few to choose from. And what I want you to do for the research assignment is just open a Google web page, and every time you go out to do some code, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down from the CSSs to the CSS3. The CSS3 gives us some three-dimensional kinds of things. Here, if I go into CSS3 text, I have different types of text: text overflow, word wrap, and word break. It shows us a piece of code. It says to go ahead and try it. When you go in there and try it, you see that you have headers and styles and all the things that you had before. And the style sheet is just embedded right in here, so it's easy for us to change and go back and forth. And you're just setting it up and to play with this little bit of text. So if we say see the result, here is the result of that. If I go in and I want to do a test 1 and a test 2, and I want the width to be 200 and the border, here I'm going to have the border be 10. And now if I click see the result, lo and behold, that picture is a nice thick line, because I told it I wanted it 10 pixels. And this 0000 means black, but I could put in pink and click see the result, and now this big line is pink. So that's how you could do some of the before and afters. And I can take this code and I can copy it all from when I was in this W3schools. I can go down to my notepad. Here's notepad, and I'll drag it over, and I will just create a new document by clicking this new, and then I can just Control V, and now I have put all of the code into the file. Now it's not color-coded yet because it doesn't know what the name of it is. It doesn't know what it is. And I'll just call it File, Save As, and I'll call it Jill Demo for CSS. And be careful where you save it. I don't want to save it in the font. I want to save it in chapter 13, squirrel, and then I can just save it right here. It's graying it out. Save as, and I'm going to call it not that, but example regular. And then I'll call it dash after 3. Oops, but I did notice how it's text. I forgot to say .html, so let's do it again. File, and we're going to rename. We're going to have the same one, but we're not going to call it a text file. We're going to call it an HTML tag right here. And we're going to save it. So now when you're doing this, you can see the color coding. This is an inline style. All of this is an inline style. We have paragraphs, and then we have things that we don't want to be paragraphs. But I think that's all you've put in your code in this example. Excellent. So that's how that's how I kind of learn as I go along. And you kind of click on each of these and scroll down through and try a little text because they have all of these try it editors. Let's go back to our class website. Back down to assignment 8. And in assignment 8, our video has been uploaded. We know that we're going to, for our research, we're just going to go out, and we're going to read, and we're going to go play a little bit, and then come back and read. And if we want to look at the syntax, we can look at it here. These were some examples that I was playing with the animated fonts and the text files. And here is what it looks like on my web server. And this is STWeb. So you have all kinds of examples. Here's what the CSS looks like. That's good. Here's some ideas that I got from Google developers. So if you're a programmer or a developer, you can go and kind of dabble around here, making the web beautiful. I like that font a lot. And then here we put a drop shadow on that font. And you can always go and get the web pages that accompany it. You might have to go into one of his little training sessions and look at that. Okay. So just kind of go through these, and then you're going to cut and paste the code that you've created, and you're going to just kind of play and then tell me, you're going to answer these questions. What did you think of it? You know, going through and doing the examples while reading the book, going through and learning what animated fonts is and all of that. So what did you think of that? How did your attitude change? Did your attitude change about how to use tutorials? Or did you just get tired? Or did you get more comfortable? So if you could just write that up, that is the research question. And I will see you in the next video.